AI is here. There's no denying that. It's now past the point of no return and it's going to impact absolutely everyone. And it's like a giant tsunami that is now upon us. So the only option, as far as I see it, is to grab a surfboard and learn to surf. But the thing that will help you survive this tidal wave more than any tool or any tactic is your mindset. And that's what I want to talk about today. How to adopt a growth mindset that will allow you not only to survive, but to thrive in this new AI world. Welcome to My Way or the AI Way. I'm Scott Davison. I'm on a mission to master AI, and I've been sharing that journey via this podcast. And that journey has been mostly fun, but it's also been a bit of an emotional roller coaster, if I'm honest. So what I want to share today are 7 mindset tools I've been using, which have helped me a lot. And I hope that these can help you. If you're an entrepreneur or a business leader or just someone who wants to prepare yourself for this AI future, then this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. These are my 7 winning mindsets for AI. The first mindset that has worked really well for me is this concept of controlling what you can control and not worrying about the things that you can't control. This is a well-known philosophy that's been around for a long time, and it's always served me well in life, but never has it been more important than right now. AI is exciting, but it's also a bit scary, and I've certainly gone down that rabbit warren a few times of sort of watching some of the doom and gloom forecasts about what AI future could look like. And to be honest, it can be a bit depressing and it wasn't really helpful. So what I've been doing is focusing on the positive and focusing on the things I can control. And that is working really well. And this is a philosophy that's been around for a long time. The Stoics talked about it. You know, some things are in our control, others are not, was the quote from the Stoics. And of course, the well-known serenity prayer that's now used across Alcoholics Anonymous. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think this mindset is really important in times of massive change, like at the moment. If you start worrying too much about all the big things that you can't control, it's not really going to be helpful. So focus on what you can control and put your energy towards that. The second mindset I wanted to talk about is this one, which is it's not too late. If you're sitting there thinking, oh, everyone else is ahead of me on the AI curve, it's too late, I've left my run too late, I want to assure you that's not the case. At the start of this year, so the start of 2025, I had not even taken the time to download ChatGPT. I'd been very busy doing other things with other jobs. And as often happens when you're busy, it's just easier to do things the way you've always done them and you don't put aside the time to learn the new tools. That's when I set myself a challenge to master AI, and I've been doing that in public via this podcast. And the whole concept was, instead of doing things the old way, my way, I was going to try doing things the AI way. And that's worked really well for me. And what are we up to? Episode 28, I think this is. So it's only a little bit over 6 months since I launched this podcast. And in that time, I've gone from being a complete beginner to being someone who's now using AI regularly every day. And I can honestly say it's made me many times, I would say 10 times better at my job. I'm more productive, I'm more creative, and I'm really enjoying it. So if you're sitting looking at someone ahead of you, just remember they're probably only 6 months ahead of you, and it's definitely not too late to start. But by the same token, now is the time to start. If we think of AI on the traditional adoption curve, it's probably at the point now where it's moving from early adopter phase to early majority. Some would say it's already crossed that chasm, but it's still early days. Even though the majority of businesses are using AI to some extent, most are just using it at a basic level. And the same goes for most people. They're just using AI maybe to do Google searches. So it's definitely not too late. You're still in the early majority, but now is the time to take action. And it can actually be an advantage being part of that early majority rather than the early adopters, because the early adopters have already sort of taken the time to trial all the tools and you can sort of learn from what they've done. So I think now is actually the perfect time to be doing it. And as I say, don't worry that everyone else is ahead of you because they're not that far ahead of you, but do whatever you need to do to motivate yourself to learn the tools now. You don't have to launch a podcast like I have, but it'd be a really good idea to set yourself a little bit of a challenge to start trying things each week, maybe do one new thing on AI. And often what I recommend to people is if you haven't already, make sure you get it on your mobile phone because you're more likely to use it there. And then just go about your normal daily tasks and your business tasks, but each time challenge yourself to think, how can I be doing this with AI? You can be using it at home to do troubleshooting. Every time you've got to fix something, go to AI and ask the question. Definitely start using it instead of Google and see how that experience goes. And the same goes at work. Whatever tasks you've got to be doing, start thinking how you can use AI for that. And each week you'll just be learning little by little, and that's how you can master this new technology really quickly. Mindset number 3, learn to surf. I am a surfer. I remember learning to surf, and it's a great sport, but it's a really difficult sport. And whilst you can get a few basic tips, the best way and the only way to learn to surf is to actually get out there and do it and get dunked a few times and get up and try again. It's much the same with AI. You can't really learn it by reading a book or even doing an online course. You really need to roll your sleeves up and start using it and learn to surf because that's how we're going to survive this wave. But make sure you're having fun in the process. This is a famous quote often attributed to Phil Edwards, which is the best surfer out there is the one having the most fun. So get out there, try AI, but have some fun in the process. And that's how you're going to teach yourself this new technology. Let's move on to a few concepts that are really helpful in terms of the way you think about AI, because this is very much a new way of working. It's not just a new piece of software. And one thing I've found really helpful when using AI is to think of it like a new staff member, not just a new tool. And this applies in many ways. Firstly, when you first start using it, I often use the analogy, it's like a new intern, like an amazing intern with all this knowledge, but it knows nothing about you and you've got to take a bit of time to train it up. And this applies to AI. Even when you're working with AI, you've got to think of it like a staff member. You've got to give it context, give it some more background information. It's really good to ask it to ask you questions, just as you would with a staff member. And you need to be providing really clear briefs. So thinking about AI, not just as another tool for your business, but thinking about it almost like another employee or another team, that can be really helpful in the way you approach this new technology. And you'll often see people giving tips on how to prompt, and the same rules sort of apply when you're prompting. You know, you always want to say what the role is, what the goal or the objective is, what any constraints are, and specifically what their tasks are. So what you're wanting it to achieve. Much like if you were briefing a new staff member on a task, you would be giving it the context, you would be explaining the role, and then you would probably be saying, do you have any questions? And that's a really good way to end any prompt is before you take action, do you have any questions? So just this mindset of thinking of AI like a person, like a staff member, rather than just a tool, is a really good way to approach this new technology. Another mindset I've found really helpful when using AI is this idea of using it to be better, not to be lazy. Like any new technology, it can be used in good ways or in bad ways. And when I see people just copying and pasting AI generated content into an email or into a social post, I think you're just being lazy and it just looks bad. And that's probably the quickest way to replace yourself if you're just outsourcing your thinking to AI. Instead, you want to be using AI to enhance you, but not to replace you. And you really want to think of AI as a co-pilot, but you need to stay in the driver's seat. We know that AI can be amazing, but it can also get things wrong. So you always want to keep a human in the loop. And remember that ultimately you're in control. You're using AI as an assistant to enhance you, and it can be really good at that. But don't just outsource your thinking to AI because, as I say, that's the quickest way to be replaced. Since I've been using AI and I've gone a bit deeper on it, it has definitely made me more productive, but it's also made me more creative and better at my job. And that's the power of this tool, that it can really make you better at what you're doing, not just make it easier to do what you're doing. And I use this as a bit of a sanity check whenever I'm doing something with AI. Am I just being lazy here, or am I actually getting a better result by using AI? The next concept, number 6, is this idea of using AI for your high value tasks. So whilst it's good to be using AI every day in as many ways as possible, the best way to get the most value out of AI is to use it for some of your really high value tasks. And I got this concept from a book I read, The AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods. And he talked a lot about this concept. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but the concept is that you don't ask what AI can do for me. Instead, you ask, what do I need to be doing? What are the most important things I need to be doing? And how can AI help with that? And particularly if you're in a leadership role, using AI to um, draft emails is probably not the most high value task. So think about how you can be using it for some of your most important tasks like decision making, strategic thinking, ideation, planning, because it's a really powerful tool for that. And he referenced a lot in his book this concept from a book called The One Thing, which is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? So challenge yourself to think of what's the really big thing on your to-do list that would make the biggest impact on you or your business. And then how can AI help with that? Because if you can be using AI for that high value task, you're going to be getting much more value out of AI as a result. And the final concept I wanted to share with you is this idea of being your own disruptor. So disrupt yourself or disrupt your business before someone else does. And I was watching a webinar just this week from Daniel Priestley. He's a very successful entrepreneur and he does a lot of content around entrepreneurs. And he was talking about this idea of imagining the business that would put your business out of business and build it. And I think that's a really good way to think about it from a business perspective is somebody or some business is going to be disrupting you. How can you make sure that's you, not someone else? So that could be transforming your existing business or perhaps launching another business that directly competes with yours with a new business model. And the same applies if you're in a role within a business. Whilst some roles are probably going to be completely replaced by AI. And if you're in one of those roles, then you need to be training yourself up in something else. For most roles, what's going to be happening is it'll be a hybrid role and it won't be AI replacing you. It'll be someone replacing you who's using AI in a better way than you are. So be that person. Start using AI, learn how to use it better in your role or in your business, and be the person that disrupts yourself rather than waiting for someone else to do it. I think that's a really useful mindset to have. Okay, those are the 7 mindsets I wanted to share with you. Just to recap, we talked about controlling what you can control and not worrying about things that are out of your control. We talked about the fact that it's not too late. You're not that far behind, but now is definitely the time to start. Learning to surf. The only way to learn AI is to roll your sleeves up and start using it. So grab your surfboard and learn how to surf. We spoke about how to think about AI, not just as another tool, but as a person, another staff member, and really applying that mindset. Number 5 was using AI to be better, not to be lazy. And number 6 was about using AI for some of your high value tasks to get the most value out of it. And then finally, that concept from Daniel Priestley of thinking about the business or the person that's going to replace you and become that business. I hope you found that helpful. As I say, during times of massive change like this, mindset is one of the most important things that's going to allow you to not only survive, but to thrive. So please try applying some of those if you find them useful and let me know how you go in the comments. If you're getting value from this channel, please hit subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this. And good luck on your journey to learn more about AI. I'm Scott Davison, and this is My Way or the AI Way.